States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to accept the minutes of the February 6th public hearing.
Make that motion.
Charlie, second by Dave. A motion to accept the minutes of the regular town board meeting of February 11th.
Motion.
Howard, second.
Second.
Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
Monthly statement of the supervisor for February 2013. The general aid fund had a beginning balance of $643,870.55. Total received was $3,589.88. Total dispersed $513,830.88. An ending balance of $133,629.55. Savings, CD, IMM accounts for the general aid total $589,453.30. General B had a beginning balance of $56,860.92. Total received was $241.30. Total dispersed was $5,588.81, leaving an ending balance of $51,513.41. Savings accounts for the general B is at $44,178.22. The highway DB had a beginning balance of $518,970.55. Total received was $29.59, leaving total dispersed, of $403,222.87. The ending balance $115,777.27. Savings at the highway DB is at $445,311.59. Highway DA had a beginning balance of $765,199.57. Total received was $29.58. Total dispersed $651,069.82, leaving an ending balance $114,159.33. Savings on the CDs, the amount of the highway DA is $802,857.92. Youngsville Water had a beginning balance of $7,880.72. Total received was $4,010.91. Total dispersed $4,480.61. Ending balance of $7,411.02. Savings for the Youngsville Water District presently at $21,386.73. Have a motion to accept the supervisor's report.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Scott, all in favor? Aye. Janet, you do the town clerk and code enforcement officer report, please.
Okay, I paid $577 to the supervisor. I paid $514.71 to the DEC. And I paid $27 to the New York State Animal Population Control. For a total of $1,118 even. And I received $395 from code enforcement officer.
Thank you, Janet. Motion to accept town clerk and code enforcement officer report.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Dave, all in favor?
Aye.
Janet, you ordered the bills.
General A vouchers number 77 to 92, $9,688.34. Also received a bill from Buddy Romney, $114.20. County Petroleum, $705.74. Peaks Power, $582.37. New York State Electric and Gas, $969.53, and $100.23. Dowser, $25.50. AT&T, $366.50. Double Clean, $340. Village of Jeff for the water, $71.70. Verizon for $493.90. General B vouchers 9 and 10, $662 even. Highway DA vouchers number 28 to 35, $47,258 even. Water District vouchers 10 and 11, $92.56. Also received a bill from Benchmark for $16.91, and New York State Electric and Gas for $988.97. youth program voucher number one, $1,310.80.
Okay, before I ask for the motion, there's one corrections on there. John, that bill from Peak Power, I would suggest that we hold that before paying it. This is a ongoing problem we've had with our generator at Town Barn. I'm trying to get it corrected, but it's something I want to talk to our attorney later on about with the vendor that sold us the unit and has failed to provide us with any service. But I spoke with Peak Power today, and if we just hold that 500, whatever it is in Peak Power. So that being said, I'd ask for a motion to pay the other bills.
Make that motion.
Charlie, in a second.
Second.
Howard, all in favor? Aye. Okay, warrants, February payroll checks number 21212 to number 21224 and the direct deposits in the amount of $39,674.11. Need a motion?
Motion.
Dave, a second.
Second.
Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The February trust and agency checks number 4875 to number 4882 and the electronic transfers in the amount of $82,660.49. A motion?
Motion.
Howard, second by Charlie.
Yep.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Highway Superintendent report. Chris?
We're getting up to about average miles on the trucks for the year with all those small ice and rain and snow and stuff we've had. So we had a couple of breakdowns, but nothing too bad. We're making it through pretty well. I started restocking some of our products for paving, stone and sand and some other stuff on last year's bids, and we're going to advertise for the new ones tonight. But it's probably not going to get any cheaper, so we're going to start refilling some stuff now. And because it gets harder to get sometimes once we get into paving season, so we're getting ready now, and hopefully by next meeting we'll be in the transition to summer work, I hope. So.
Okay, Chris, thanks. Any board member have anything for Chris?
No, just, they've been, as usual, doing a good job for everybody.
Code enforcement.
Building permit activity is down. I did write a couple logging permits, and for the most part, the loggers are pretty respectful of our roads, and they understand what it's all about. And they try to load their loads when it's cold and frozen, and so it's working out.
Okay. And that situation Youngsville we spoke about, we're going to pursue that.
Yeah.
Anything from Greg?
No, I'm quiet on my side too.
Anybody have anything for code enforcement? Okay, as usual, we allow a public comment period before our business items on the agenda. For just that, for anything that's on our agenda, it's pretty cut and dried tonight, what we have. But if there's any questions on any of the agenda items, now would be the time to address them. So if we have any questions on agenda items, if not, we'll go in. Yes,
Well,
sir.
Tom, I just wanted to ask if there are any things on the agenda that aren't on the agenda.
Not that I know of, but we have quite a few things to go through, so I know what you're referring to, and there are no other resolutions. I just will remind everybody that when we post resolutions online, and we're required to do them, what we aren't required to do is have a website, but we have established a website several years ago to make it a little bit more efficient for people and to gain access to permitting and so forth, so. But we are not required to have a website, so, but we do try to get things on, and anything that certainly requires comment as far as a public hearing and a local law have been, and referring to the one last month about the Second Amendment, right, was not on, so, and we addressed that, so, but thanks for asking that. Anything else on agenda items for tonight? Okay, then we'll go into them. Tonight we have with us, I see Sue Peters and Andy Arias, Andrew, sorry.
Either way.
From Cooper and Neiman are here tonight to do our financial annual report. So we'll get you guys going, and then you can bug out or stay for the rest of it. But you have the floor, so thank you.
If they have a life or not.
Thanks. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Arias. I'm with the firm Cooper, Neiman and Company.
You're normally used to seeing Susan Peters up here doing the presentation and working on your audit. She is local, but what we like to do is change up whenever we can, have different people come and work on audits, get a different perspective, a different set of eyes looking at audits. So this year I actually was here doing a lot of the field work on your audit and doing the financial statement preparation, so I'm going to do the presentation since I actually worked on the audit this year. The handout I gave you, I'm just going to go through. The first part, I'm sure, is the stuff that Sue tells you about. There's a couple of parts to our audits. We look at the financials. We assess your internal controls and determine to see if we can rely on those internal controls to come to our opinion. We also look at your compliance with laws and regulations. It's all part of a government audit as opposed to a non-government audit. There is additional work required if you get more than $500,000 in federal monies, which the town did not have this year. That's called a single audit. We do an additional audit on your federal monies in those cases. Basically what we're doing is we're giving an opinion on these financial statements, the fair presentation. And what that means is if an outside user looks at these financial statements, would they be misled by them? Would they be misled by any of the numbers in those financial statements? We're not looking at every dollar, every expenditure. It's sort of based on the fair presentation of the financial statements. I'm going to go through a couple of your major funds, some of the major items. Your general town-wide fund balance this year increased $22,000. And we always like to sort of put things in perspective by using percentages. That's about 3% of your total budget in that fund. So you sort of get a feel for, how close you were to how much it fluctuated from your budget. You did actually outperform your budget by $111,000. And what that means is you actually plan to decrease your budget by $89,000 through appropriated fund balance. So you did outperform the budget, and that was mainly due to expenditures less than budgeted expenditures. Your revenues were pretty much right on, almost to the dollar. What you budgeted, your expenditures were less. Your actual expenditures were $30,000 less than last year. So not just below the budget, your real expenditures were less than the previous year. Your highway town-wide fund increased $90,000. That's about 10% of your budgeted expenditures. It outperformed the budget by $190,000 because there was a planned decrease there of $100,000. Again, the outperformance was mainly due to expenditures less than budgeted amounts in the highway fund. Really, the activity was pretty consistent in the highway fund. Your revenues were up about $57,000. Your expenditures were up about $43,000. That had to do with the sale and the purchase of equipment, is really what increased both the revenues and the expenditures in the highway fund. Your highway part town fund, the fund balance decreased $45,000. It went down. That's 7% of your budgeted expenditures, but that is consistent with your budget because you did plan a decrease of $47,000 in the highway DB. So when you're looking at these fund balances, if they go up or down, doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. If you plan fund balance to go down, that's what you're looking for it to do. Your revenues were up about $27,000 from the prior year. Your expenditures were up about $70,000. The increase in your expenditures, there was a Lake Anawana Road project, was $31,000. There also was flood damage throughout the year that was around approximately $35,000. Those again were the two items that really were different from the prior year in your highway DB fund. And your water fund balance decreased $19,000. That's 25% of your budgeted expenditures. When you're looking at percentages, I always warn you when you're looking at these funds that have small budgets, the percentages are going to be large. So you have to realize it's relative to the fund, those percentages. The revenues were down about $5,000. Your expenditures were up due to the purchase of the water meters this year. So that was the item that caused you to use some of that fund balance. The unassigned appropriated fund balance, this is the fund balance that's left over that the town can do whatever they want with. It's not appropriated for the next year's budget. It's not restricted for any other use. Your general town-wide fund is $160,000. That's up about $50,000 from the prior year. It's about 20% of your 2013 budgeted expenditures. And that's sort of a benchmark you look at when you're looking at fund balance because obviously the larger the fund and the smaller the fund, they're not all going to have the same fund balance. You have to look at it as a percentage of your expenditures. Towns, unlike schools, don't have a statutory limit as to how much they can keep in their fund balance. Sort of what the state controller sort of unofficially looking at it has said about 20% of fund balance is where they start thinking, okay, maybe that's a good amount to keep in there. But again, that's unofficial, and certainly funds like highway funds, you might want to keep a little more because highway funds are really susceptible to a lot of unforeseen things that can happen in the highway fund. But as you can look at your general fund, you were 15% in 2010, 14% last year, and 20% of the ensuing year's budget this year. So the fund balance, the unassigned fund balance has stayed pretty consistent throughout the last 3 years. Your highway town-wide fund is $309,000, up $119,000 from the prior year. We spoke about the increase in fund balance. That's 37% of your 2013 budgeted expenditures, and you can see the last 2 years is going up a little. But I do always remind when you're looking at the highway funds, It's always better to have a little bit of a cushion in the highway fund. One bad winter, fuel prices go up, a bad snowstorm, you can deplete a highway fund balance a lot quicker than you're gonna deplete a general fund balance. So you have to remember that when looking at fund balances.
Excuse me?
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that there's $310,000?
This is just a report for the board
Oh,
right now,
okay.
so you'll
All
have to
right.
just wait, save your question for later. and hopefully-
Okay, fine, sorry.
The highway fund part count is 112,000, that's about down 49,000 from the prior year, and again, we spoke about that going down. And you see that portion of fund balance has decreased over the last 3 years. It was 34% of your ensuing year's budget 2 years ago, it's down to 19% of your budget expenditures in the current year. And your water fund is at $49,000. Again, you look at that 86% of budgeted expenditures, again, that's, you gotta take that, it's all relative, it's a small budget, but you also have to be careful with small budgets, especially in the water or sewer fund. You can quickly deplete fund balance if you have problems in those funds. And these are just some charts I like to look at, the parts of fund balance. And if you look at your general town-wide fund balance, the 3 components of fund balance, you have your unassigned, which we just spoke about, how much you're appropriating to the tax levy every year, and then the restricted portions. And what you really like to see is the red is really the appropriated and the unassigned. You want them to be as level as possible to avoid spikes in your tax levy. You don't want to see your fund balance going up and down every year, and you don't want to see appropriating 200,000 one year and appropriating 50,000 the next year. You want to keep that level. Back in 2009, the town used up a lot of its fund balance. There was some flood damage and some equipment you purchased. But as you look at over the last few years, that's the way you want the chart to look. You want to see it be fairly level. You don't want to see big fluctuations up and down. And this is sort of what you're looking for when you're managing a fund balance. You look at that yellow line, what you're appropriating in next year's tax levy. If you are going to decrease that amount, you want to decrease it gradually. You don't want to appropriate 200,000, and then have nothing left, and all of a sudden you can't appropriate anything. That's when you run into problems with your tax levy. Here's your highway town-wide fund balance. It has gradually started to increase the last few years. Again, highway funds are a lot harder to manage than a general fund. There's a lot of things that happen in a highway fund that you don't see in a general fund, so it's a little more difficult. Again, just keep an eye on that fund balance. And here is your part-town fund, which you've been doing the opposite. You've been gradually bringing down the fund balance. And when we see an unassigned or unappropriated fund balance come down, we want to see it come down gradually. Again, we always try to talk about you don't want to see your fund balance just depleted in 1 year. It causes problems. If you think you have too much fund balance and you want to start bringing it down gradually. So this is the way you like to see the chart look when you're bringing down your fund balance. A couple of things in closing. In the highway funds, good job of managing what are usually difficult fund balances to manage. We usually see more spikes in highway fund balances, so it's nice to see them fairly level. Even if it's a fairly level increase or a fairly level decrease, you can manage those, but you don't want to see the big spikes. But just monitor that gradual decrease in the highway part count. Again, you always want to keep an eye on those highway funds. You don't want them to get too low because it can take 1 year to wipe out that fund balance. And one thing I would say is perhaps consider creating reserves in the highway fund where you can fund them through the annual budget. You can set aside a budget, put right in your budget 10,000, 15,000, 5,000, whatever you want, fund that reserve every year, and then when you need to purchase a piece of equipment, somebody can use that reserve. So something to consider in the highway fund rather than leaving it all. You don't want to tie up too much money in a reserve, especially a capital reserve where there are some limits on how you can spend it, but it's something to consider, which the town doesn't have right now, is those reserves. The general fund, again, good job maintaining a fairly level fund balance. That was the one we looked at first. All your components of fund balance have been pretty consistent. And if you're going to adjust your appropriated fund balance, again, do it gradually throughout the course of the year. And the water fund, with the exception of this year where you bought the water meters, the actual range of your fund balance has been very consistent over the last 5 years. It should be in that same range. You had the one spike this year because you had to purchase the water meters. But again, monitor that activity closely because it is a small fund. And you have a water line break or something like that, and you can use up your money pretty quickly. The management letter comments, there's actually 2 letters that come with your audit report. One is the management letter comments. In past years, we always had your segregation of duties. What we called was a SAS 115 comment. It was considered a significant deficiency. It was actually in your audit report, in the back page of your audit report. We moved it this year to a management letter comment. We discussed some compensating controls that the town could put in place that we feel that it would no longer be a significant deficiency. So some of the controls that they're going to put in place, these are things that when we come back in audit, we'll then test those controls. We make sure that what they say they're doing. But it is important when you have a small town and you're putting those controls in place that you do follow those controls. And they are done every month. Somebody is signing off, someone else is looking at the bank statements, things like that. The other comments are accompanied by management's responses. So anyone looking at the management letter, we always like to encourage you to put the responses in there. So if someone looks at your management letter, your responses are right there. This is what we're doing. This is why this happened. This is how we're addressing this issue. It's right in the letter. And there also were some verbal issues we discussed with Joanne. But one of the things I discussed with her was the budget throughout the course of the year, monitoring the budget. I know at the end of the year what a lot of towns will do is they'll do their budget modifications and move their money back and forth amongst the lines. You know, a lot of towns do that. State Controller knows that a lot of towns do that. The only thing I would say is perhaps look at the budget more closely, at least on a quarterly basis. If you have a large fund balance adjustment to do, something large comes up with the water meters or something, that really should be done before it happens. The end of year stuff moving around is fine, a lot of towns do that, but just try to concentrate on if you're using fund balance, if you have a big expenditure you weren't expecting, you want to buy a truck, you have the water meters, make that budget modification before the actual expense happens. And also just one thing to keep an eye on, another thing that the state controller is looking at a lot is the use of online banking. And the town doesn't really use that, but if in the future, so the board's aware that if the town is going to start using any kind of paying bills online or using electronic transfers, we really got to make sure you have good controls in place for any of that. Obviously, we would prefer you use as little as possible of that, but if you really feel it's something you want to do, the board should be aware that there should be strong controls in terms of any kind of online banking, and we always recommend that what that means is 2 people have to initiate any kind of an online transfer, and that can be set up through the bank, where they wouldn't let anything be initiated without 2 people being involved in it. The SAS 114 letter is the other letter you get. That's just a communication with management. That's where we tell you what we're doing. If we have any problems with anybody here, if somebody doesn't give us what we need, if someone gives us a hard time, that's the letter where we would tell the board we had problems with somebody or something wasn't going smoothly in the audit. And we also like to put in that letter, we highlight important note disclosures. Now again, the whole audit report obviously is important, all the note disclosures are important, but we'll put in that letter as a board member, make sure you look at note 3, note 5, note 6. These are important notes that you should be looking at. So we try to highlight to the board members what notes to make sure you look at when you're going through the financial statements. You did get a qualified opinion on your financial statements. That's because you don't have the post-employment health insurance benefits and fixed assets in your financial statements. A lot of small towns have that. The new standards this year actually changed the auditor's report, so it allows us to be a little clearer on that. We're allowed to give you a qualified opinion. If you look at the auditor's report in the front, you'll see a couple of paragraphs. One will say, we're giving you a qualified opinion on your governmental activities, which is those full accrual statements in the front, the first 2 statements. The next paragraph tells you we're giving you an unmodified opinion, which means a clean opinion on everything else in the financial statement. So somebody looking at it is pretty clear on the fact that this only has to do with these 2 issues that only have to do with the full accrual statements. I haven't seen any ill effects of people not implementing some of these standards. The small towns who don't do it because you have to pay for an appraisal on your fixed assets and you have to pay for an actuary for post-employment. I do want to point out for the first time I did hear where a representative of USDA just did tell one of our municipalities that unless they got rid of the qualified opinion, they would have a problem with USDA money. Now, I don't know if that is an official USDA position or just a person who was talking to the person, but just want to make you aware. Keep an eye on whether any granting agencies, any bonding, getting bonds are going to be affected by this, and at some point the town may have to implement those GASB standards. But right now, I haven't seen any ill effects. Other issues, the town did levy an excess over the tax cap back in 2012. It was the first year. A lot of people were just learning how the tax cap works, but the town did do what you're supposed to do. You set it aside in the bank account. It stays there, and then it's used to offset the 2013 tax levy. So that was properly done by the town, which we like to see. Some new GASB pronouncements this year that really didn't affect anything in your financial statements. It was more standard that we do. So nothing changed this year in your financial statements. There might be some changes next year. We'll talk about that next year. But pretty much overall for the town, one thing I like to point is the town does seem to do a good job of managing its fund balances. As I look through your fund balances, I don't see the big spikes that I see in some other places. And that's really important as a board and as trying to manage your tax levy and your fund balances. You don't want to see the big spikes. So that's one of the things I see. So overall, everything went pretty smoothly. And next year you'll have Sue back up here again. But if anybody has any questions from the board, I'm more than happy to.
I would like to thank all of you that was here, and Megan as well, for working with Joanne, mostly myself. But every year we have a very smooth process of the audit. I think Just the thing on that, about the tax cap, I think anybody was here for the last year knew the reasons that we actually exceeded 2% was because we prepaid our state retirement, and being it was the first year of the governor's 2% cap, a lot of things were unclearly put forward, I think, to our municipality. So we prepaid the state retirement, saving a little bit of money by doing that, but and then it made us over the 2%. So we set aside, as you said, Andy, and so it was okay. This year we're under the 2%. The GASB standards we've talked about since I've been a board member, I think, and as far as having to do the annual appraisals, we've chosen not to do that, and we'll continue to look at that. I know it costs more for our annual audit if we choose to abide by GASB standards. So I think the board will continue, and as well as the bookkeeper will look at that and see if it does have any negative impact on, as you say, maybe bonding or any fees. So. But I am good. I think if the board has any questions, and I would hope if you have a few extra moments, I think we had one question in the audience we would deal with. But the board first, if we have anybody.
If you have any questions, I'd just like to thank Joanne again for the nice job she does.
Second that.
Joanne, thank you. Thank you, guys.
While she's fighting,
Okay, Dennis, I believe you had one.
Yeah, Andy, my name is Dennis Finley. I'm from Callicoon Center. And when you first began describing these fund balances, I didn't know whether you were saying that these were surplus funds after the town had gone through its budget or fiscal year. Is this actually surplus money, or is this, I mean, is it money that's available for other projects that the town could use, or is there more tax money coming in to add to that balance?
Well, the unassigned appropriated fund balance, what that is at the end of each year, it's all of your revenues, and it's really a cumulative number from all the years the town of Callicoon has been around.
Oh,
It's
I
all of
see.
your revenues, all of your expenses, and what's left over. Think of it as what's sitting in your bank account.
Okay.
But part of the fund balance every year, so assume the town has $100,000 in fund balance, they may say, we're gonna take 20 of that and use it to offset next year's levy. So that leaves you with 80.
Okay.
They may take 20 and put it in a reserve, that leaves you with 60. So the unassigned, unappropriated is really what sort of is left going into the next year if an emergency happens and the town needs extra money that's not already accounted for somewhere. So that's why we say you don't want it to be down to nothing. You need to have a little bit of a cushion there,
Right.
especially in highway funds where if you have nothing and then all of a sudden you have a terrible winter, where are you gonna get the money from? So that number there is pretty much the money the town has going into the year to do whatever they want with that money, any purposes they need, within the funds, obviously.
Okay, thanks.
Could I ask a question also? What reserve funds do you have, does the town have?
Joanne, if you could just speak to that a second, because we have in the past, we've had, our biggest problem has been our flooding over the years and using money that has been set aside for different things, but if you want to address that with Mr. Hilton.
Which reserve funds do we have?
What
We have
reserve
an-
funds do you
We
have,
have an
Joanne?
equipment reserve and a repair reserve.
Andy spoke about also the possibility of establishing a reserve fund for highway. Is that something that you'd be thinking of doing? And you can understand why, for sure, yeah.
Well, yes, I guess I understand why. We really haven't had the need for that, quite truthfully. I mean, we have had emergency repair that we've been able to do with the budget transfers that he talked about and move some money if need be. We've been fortunate with a lot of good paperwork of recouping some of these monies from federal programs or state programs of reimbursement. So that big spike you might have seen back with, I know the flooding we had in 2006 when the town expended, $400,000 that we didn't expect, but we were able to, over a course of 2 to 3 years before we actually saw that back. So highway, as much as we watch that and would like to spend a lot more money in paving there, again, trying to stay at 2% and keep our taxes somewhat stable, hasn't really been a real necessity. But equipment and emergency repair, yes.
Okay.
If there's nothing else for Andy or Sue at this time, I'd like to thank them, and I guess if nothing else, you're free to leave.
Thank you.
Or stick around if you'd like.
Maybe I will stick around for a little while. Relax, I'll stay with Sue.
You're welcome to. I'll go out of order just a bit because I see our undersheriff, Eric Shabodi, popped in. Is he still here? You okay?
Yeah.
Okay, just a pleasure for me to introduce our undersheriff, Eric Chabot is here with us. I spoke with him, just maybe if he had a few minutes, if he wanted to speak to our audience regarding recent burglaries and some things to watch for. So Eric Chabot, our undersheriff, Sullivan County. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Sheriff. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Eric Chabot, the undersheriff. Mike Schiff is at another meeting tonight, so I'm covering here. There have been a lot of burglaries in Sullivan County. I checked the statistics before I came over today, and there really hasn't been much in the town of Callicoon that we've investigated. It seems to be on the border in Bethel. There was one this afternoon on Dahlia Road in Liberty, where somebody was dropped off, went around to the back of the house, knocked out a window, and stole 3 rings. They knew exactly what they were after. A lot of these burglaries are driven by people who are addicted to drugs. They need money, and they steal goods and sell them in order to get their drugs. So what I would like every citizen in Callicoon to do is just keep your eyes open, kind of like our anti-terrorist program. If you see something, say something. If you see a suspicious vehicle, you know what cars belong in your neighborhood. You know what's out of place. Don't be embarrassed. Call right away. The worst thing that can happen is we'll get to the scene of a crime to investigate, and someone will say, yeah, you know, I saw this strange car like 2 days ago. What are you telling me now for? It does no good. Also, always try to get a plate number. You'd be surprised how we've had some nosy neighbors get some plate numbers and solve the crime. But we've been okay so far in Callicoon, but we need you to remain vigilant out there and keep your eyes open. And again, as soon as you see, especially if you see a couple people in a car during the day when they should be at work, they look suspicious, give us a call. Don't be embarrassed. We'll come out and check it out. But try to get that plate number. But so far we've been lucky here. And let's keep up the vigilance. That's it. Any questions?
What number should we call?
You call 911.
Oh, okay.
They'll get the closest car to you. Call 911, say I see a suspicious vehicle. Try to get a plate.
Anyone else have anything for?
Sheriff, thanks for coming. Is it primarily jewelry that's being involved in these thefts?
But some of your more desperate suspects will, like in the case of down in Sackett Lake last week, a gentleman stole a 52-inch TV, had no way of transporting it, so then he stole a van from Mr. Willie's. He stole Mr. Willie's catering van, put the TV in it.
Throw it through.
And when we caught up with him, he was in the process of using heroin.
Maybe you could just speak to that precious gem law that I know Jim Farrell
Yes,
is instrumental.
for years there has been a precious gem law in, well, at least in the town of Walk Hill in Orange County, and then it was countywide. And we noticed a couple of the people associated with that trade moved their base of operations from Orange County to just inside Sullivan County. There was one big outfit that opened in Bloomingburg. So our district attorney, Jim Farrell, decided it was time to have a precious gem and metals law, which the county legislature passed. And what that requires is if you're in the trade, like a pawn shop, they call them generically pawn shops, but there's a furniture store on Broadway in Monticello that buys jewelry. Anybody who buys jewelry, scrap gold, precious gems, stones, must take a picture of the items when they receive them. Must also take a picture of the ID, government ID that's presented, typically a driver's license, and must hold those items for 15 days before they're melted. Those images are then emailed to the DA's office, and any police officer in the county investigating a crime can contact the DA, go by, or get stuff emailed to them and see if it matches anything from their burglary. They've actually solved a couple cases already because of that.
Are the crooks breaking into empty homes? Are these summer homes or weekend homes?
We have different tiers of crooks. You have the ones that want the gold, so they'll break into typically an occupied home that would have jewelry. Then you have the real low-level, bottom-of-the-rung crooks who break into unoccupied homes and steal the copper. Copper is bringing $3 a pound. So what will happen is when the snow thaws and our summer friends return, we'll start getting a lot of phone calls that I went to turn on my water and nothing happened. And their copper pipes are going to be missing. So we've arrested a lot of people stealing copper pipes. Okay, thank you very
Well,
much.
I just, again, like to say thanks to you and the sheriff's office, because I know you're spread thin, but we rely very heavily on our sheriffs, especially in the western end of our county. So Thank you for that. Thanks for coming tonight, Eric.
Thank you very
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next, some mundane items, but we have to do these. Number 2 on the list, we have to advertise for sandstone and asphalt bids, so I need a motion so we can advertise to accept bids next month. Or to get this motion by Howard and second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Same line, the next one is advertise for pipe bids, culvert.
Tom, did we actually accept the report? The audit report?
Thanks, Howard. Okay, so we got the motion to advertise for sandstone and asphalt bids. Thank you, Howard, for reminding me, we do need a motion to accept the audit report. We usually do forget. I wrote right here, do not forget.
Write it bigger next time.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dave, second.
Second.
Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Going to number 3, we need to advertise also for culvert pipe for next year, so we have a motion to advertise for pipe.
Motion.
Scott?
Second.
Howard, second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we need to set dates for spring cleanup. Chris, we spoke briefly about this, we're not sure what the county's doing yet, but I don't think they are either, so
Yeah.
we've looked at, we've looked at the weekends of May 3rd through 6th, or May 17th through 20th. We're getting around Mother's Day and Memorial Day.
Right.
So-
I'd say we usually do typically the first weekend in May, so if we could stick with 3 through 6, that's good for me.
Okay, that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll be the same, we'll advertise for
May 3rd.
May 3rd through 6th for spring cleanup.
7 to 6.
7 to 6, same as always.
7
7 a.m., 6 p.m.
Is that what's
And
good with you?
yeah, we haven't had any rule changes as far as I know with the county, so.
No, not that I know of, we'll be waiting to hear from them. Okay,
Do we know what's allotted this year, or is that change at all?
No, hopefully it'll be the same, I hope. We made out good because that last year that they tallied, that we were high in tonnage, so we made out good when they cut that in half. We were still all right.
so I need a motion then to set for those dates.
Make the motion.
Second.
Charlie and Howard, all in favor? Aye. Okay, along with that, so we need to advertise for bids for hauling, for the cleanup. Need a motion?
Motion.
Scott?
Second.
Charlie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Janet? Great catch. Okay. All right, we need to advertise request proposals for mowing, both here at the town hall and also at the town park, Callicoon Center. We need a motion to advertise.
Make a motion.
Dave, Charlie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next one is appointment of an auditor for our justice court. The justice court books are kept separately from the town book. They also are looked at and gone over by Cooper Neiman, but the Office of State Controller suggests that we, let's read it, Section 2019 of the Uniform Justice Court requires that town and village justices annually provide their court records and dockets to the respective town and village auditing boards, and that such records then be examined or audited, and that fact be entered into the minutes of the board proceeding. So to improve accountability and controls over the justice court finances and records, I need a motion. We have to appoint an auditor from our board to audit annually the justice court books. So I would suggest that we make a motion to elect Howard to that.
Congratulations.
I'll make that motion.
All right, we got a motion by Dave,
Second.
second by Charlie, and everybody should be in favor except Howard. No, it's the thing, and I think you'll provide, you know, there's some questions that should be asked, is that correct? So, okay, so that's just pretty much, thanks, Howard.
You're welcome.
Did you write that down?
I had it way down here. Okay, next we do have one resolution, and this is one we do every year. For a standard workday resolution, resolution of the town board, town of Callicoon for standard workday and reporting for New York State and local retirement system. So be it resolved, town of Callicoon, county of Sullivan hereby establishes the following as standard workdays for newly elected / re-elected or appointed, reappointed officials, and will report the following days' work to New York State and local retirement system based on the record of activities maintained and submitted by these officials to the clerk of this board. The standard workday resolution shall be posted and made available to the public for a minimum of 30 days from adoption. So I need a motion to adopt this resolution.
Make that motion.
Second.
Howard, I'm sorry, second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you. You want that copy? All right, the next we have is an agreement to expend the highway funds, and I don't know, Chris, if you want to speak to this a little bit, but this is, again, normal procedure for, allow the highway superintendent to expend these funds for, this is for the purpose of paving certain roads in our town, so I don't know if you want to speak to that just a
Yeah, I
second.
mean, we're gonna set 2 miles out right now, and we're gonna see how, like I said, we're already stocking up on some stone and some paving supplies now. And, but I did sit down with Joanna, and we mapped out a couple of miles here to start, that we're definitely gonna do. And the first one being from the County Road 149 in Youngsville, Stump Pond, and going up Stump Pond Road to the intersection of Yawn Road and at Deus's Farm. And so and that'll give us a mile there. And also from the Huber family farm on Huber Road, also off of County Road 149, going headed towards the Gulf Road. We're going to do from Huber family to the town of Rockland line, which is going to give us about another 1.1 miles there. So, so that's what we got on the books for right now.
Okay, just need a motion to agreement for the expenditure of the highway monies for the work that Chris has just explained. A motion?
I'll make that motion.
Any questions first, and I'm sorry. Charlie and Howard.
No questions on this.
Okay, we have Charlie and Howard, we have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You'll have to sign it.
Yes, there's Granny. Thank you, Granny.
Okay, up here, and I'll ask the board for this, but there's other copies of this too, and this is 125th anniversary for Jeff Fire Department. Parade will be August 3rd, 2013. Jeffersonville Fire Department would like to include you in their 125th anniversary coming in the year 2013. Every 25 years, we include our local towns to celebrate with a parade, which will be held on August 3rd in Jeffersonville. We also honor our fire department with a book containing the past 125 years of service given by our department, which includes special thank you messages from our neighboring businesses and families. You can personally take part in this special thank you or promote your own business by filling out the following information. So there's several of these here, and depending if you want to take an ad out in this journal, if you will. We've done this in the past. I know we've done it with the Jeff Journal. I would like to ask the board, a full page ad is $150, half page $85, quarter $65, 8-page $45, and a booster ad is $15. So I'd like to ask the board their thought on this, and I would just like to suggest that we take a full page ad, but I'll see what the board wants to do.
Sounds like a good idea to me. I'm fine with that.
The fire, the fire
Okay.
department's always here for all of us and our flooding and all that other
Okay,
stuff,
so
you
you
know.
want to put that in the form of a
Definitely.
motion then, Dave?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, we put an ad in
For $150 full page
there,
ad?
full page, yeah.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Howard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and like I said, I'll keep one here for us. There are others up here if anybody would like, or any of the firemen can certainly give that to you. Okay, last month we had advertised for a new chipper for highway, and we didn't receive any. So we did get one for this month, and it's a loan bid. Chris has, I know you requested several from a couple different vendors, and we only received one, and this is for 2 months in a row, so. This is here everything is. Okay, this from Marshall Machinery. Here's a quote for the new Morbark 12-inch disc chipper. If you need spec'd out differently, let me know. As for your trade-in, the boss wants to give around $10,000. Let me know your thoughts. Okay, so the extended price on the new chipper, and then of course we'll let Highway look this over, but the outright purchase price of it is $31,204.45. So at this point, I guess we would just table this till maybe next month's meeting. Let
Yeah,
you get a
yeah, we'll check
chance
it out,
to-
and he offered 10 on the trade,
Around.
Around 10.
Around 10, yeah.
Around 10, okay, around.
Could be 11.
Yeah, that's right.
Probably 9 now.
All right, so everybody's all right with that? We'll table that, let Chris look that over. and,
That's great.
Can I give that to Chris? So you-
No, I'll take it.
Yeah, everything's gotta go to Jen. Let's see. Just, there's a rabies clinic, a free rabies clinic, ad up here, or a poster up here at the firehouse in Youngsville on the 27th of March, 6 to 7:30. This is here, it's on the bulletin board if anybody wants to get shots to pets. There's St. Patrick's Day Parade here in town in Jeffersonville on this Saturday.
Saturday, 16th.
Noontime, so come out, support your local businesses and all the Irish. Okay. Just a little note that this past Friday, I had the pleasure, the deputy supervisor as well as Greg from Code Enforcement, we met here with Congressman Chris Gibson. And the main reason we had met was we had requested some funding, as some of you may remember, a letter I read aloud at last month's meeting. And the letter went to Assemblywoman Gunther, Congressman Gibson, and Senator Bonasek. I've heard from all three of their offices. They've all have vowed to do what they can for us. Senator Bonasek reminded that he did appropriate $400,000 to our county soil and water last year. We're still, I believe, waiting on a good share of that, but that's got to be county-wide. Assemblywoman, I spoke with her and the one person in her office. They're working on getting somebody with DEC with us. Congressman Gibson will get somebody from Army Corps of Engineers. I know we've talked many times about a project and we have something that's come up in Youngsville that is a possibility. We're going to do everything we can to see this through fruition. But Congressman Gibson was here. We spoke about that mainly, but it was nice to have him right here in our town. So last month at the meeting and the public hearing and several other before that, I had welcomed our residents that have had concerns and outcries on regarding either the comprehensive plan or natural gas drilling, and I have welcomed their comment to meet with myself or any of the board members at their convenience. And I'd like to thank the 4 residents that took the time to, 3 of them were by appointment, 1 of them was by chance, meeting at a post office, and we had a good conversation. So I'd like to thank those 4 residents that did take the time to come to see us. I hope they felt it was as worthwhile as I did. And I had explained to them that's the reasons. I think for the 4 residents that I spoke with, it took approximately 4 to 5 hours between the 4 of them. I don't mind that at all. That's what I'm here for. The board has welcomed that. But that, I believe, is one of the reasons why we have not, at these scheduled meetings of our town board. The meetings of the town board for the month is to conduct the business of the town for the month. It is also to allow public comment, which we've done. What we haven't wanted to do is get into open, heated debate, discussion that usually is non-productive and most times counterproductive. So what we have done, and the offer is still there for anyone, believe me, that's why, and I know the board will agree with me on this, that we want to have these conversations. We want you to be informed. We want to have it under conditions that allows comment from you and a response from us. I just don't see the point of, at these board meetings, other than trying to address what you have in questions, but not allowing debate, discussion. I hope you understand with that. It will be our policy to continue that we will keep allowing public comment, but also know that we are always open for any place. You know, hopefully it's here, phone calls, and we will take the time to discuss with your concerns. So going in a little bit further with that, we, as most of you know, we've been working on this comprehensive plan update. We, at this time, I announced we are not adopting the comprehensive plan tonight. We don't feel that it's time to do it. We have taken comments from the town We did receive the required 239M review from the county, and I would just like to read to you the board's response to the county's 239M review. It is addressed to Jill Wire. We no longer have we have an acting commissioner of planning because the planning commissioner, Luis Aragon, resigned a month ago. And instead of appointing someone that's worked in planning to be the interim commissioner of planning, they've appointed the acting county manager to also be the commissioner of planning. So anyway, this is addressed to Ms. Jill Wire, who is a assistant commissioner, and she's the one that signed the 239M review. Dear Ms. Wire, in response to the DPEM, which is the Department of Planning and Environmental Management, in response to the required 239M review of the Town of Callicoon's proposed comprehensive plan update, the plan, as well as the suggested modifications to the plan, the town board finds the recommendations to be irresponsible and unreasonable. The town board believes removing all comments regarding natural gas drilling, as the DPEM has suggested, would be ignorant of what is possibly the largest land use activity we have faced in decades, maybe in history. Whether the prospect of natural gas drilling would bring environmental and/or socioeconomic harm, or whether it would bring jobs and provide an economic stimulus so desperately desired, is a highly controversial argument that is polarizing many communities across New York. Removing any or all language associated with natural gas drilling would seem to suggest that the possibility of it occurring does not exist, and therefore would be grossly irresponsible. The DPEM has opined that the adoption of the plan would cause adverse inter-community impacts. However, it has failed to identify a single one. In consideration of the other communities being subject to adverse impacts, I contacted officials at each of the towns that border the town of Callicoon as well as the village of Jeffersonville, which lies entirely within the town. I was informed that not any of those communities ever received a request for input regarding the adoption of the plan. How can the DPEM realistically suggest something as benign as adopting a comprehensive plan could have adverse impacts on other communities without ever contacting and requesting input from those communities? Furthermore, upon reviewing the comprehensive plan and the subsequent 239M review of the neighboring town of Rockland, I found it disconcerting that the DPEM recommended approval of Rockland's plan, considering the similarities to Callicoon's plan regarding comments related to gas drilling. The DPEM's review, dated March 26, 2010, a copy of which is included in this response, states that the town of Rockland's plan, as proposed, will have positive intercommunity impacts. Further, it goes on to state that their balanced view presents both the potential positive and negative impacts of natural gas drilling, and suggests that it be incorporated in the SWOT, Strength, Weakness, Opportunity, Threat Analysis. The town of Callicoon's proposed plan has done exactly what the DPEM had suggested the town of Rockland do in their plan. Yet the DPEM has widely contrasting opinions of the plans for these two neighboring towns who have many similarities and are equally as likely to be impacted by natural gas drilling. Therefore, the town of Callicoon Town Board finds the DPEM's 239M review of the proposal to be unreasonable. However, as the DPEM has suggested, the town of Callicoon Town Board is considering appointing a review panel of volunteers to address the necessary protections our residents demand and must be afforded should a large industrial activity apply for development in the town. Adoption of the comprehensive plan, therefore, will not be considered until adequate time has been allowed for the review panel to organize, and then only after it has presented its findings to the town board for possible modifications to the plan. With that being said, and that's exactly what I will ask the board now, that we do just that. I think at this time, I know I've read several articles lately in local papers regarding New York State and Governor Cuomo's view on this, and with the anticipated further study of the health study and possible one after that, which I think if you ask this board we'll all agree with, that it is pertinent that New York State waits till those health studies are completed. And in the meantime, if we can appoint a review panel, again, we will ask for some volunteers. I would say we have anywhere from 5 to 8 members of this review panel. We will have a sign-up sheet available at the town clerk's office, probably starting tomorrow. And Janet has told me she will probably be able to make it available electronically, either on the website or via email. So what we would like to do is let them study this. It's not studying the issue of whether you are in favor of natural gas drilling or opposed to it, but simply about the comprehensive plan that we've worked on for over 3 years, and whether the language that's included in that is necessary, whether it should be removed. And other than that, there really was very little discussion about any other parts of the comprehensive plan. So I think it's a pretty direct approach, and what we will ask of this review committee. So we will do that. We will make a sign-up sheet available. I would suggest we have a sign-up deadline of our April meeting, of our regular town board meeting, the second Monday of April. And at that time, the board will look through the list of volunteers and ultimately make a decision of who is going to be on this review panel. I'd like to ask the board's opinion on this, if they have anything further they would like to add to this at this time.
Well, being it's such a controversial issue, and I know I've been through this comprehensive plan from the beginning to the end. I've listened to many comments from many more people that are in this room. So it just doesn't seem that we can satisfy your opinions. So maybe some of you should be put to this task. I don't believe the issue should be taken out personally myself. I think that would be irresponsible. But maybe there's another way to, with language, make it sound better. I know this would have to be up to a committee to have to answer those questions, so. And if it takes 6 or 8 people to do it, have at it. I think it's a good idea.
I also think it's a good idea. I also like to say that in the past, we've been, people are asking if we have our own personal agenda. Just saying that I don't believe we do, and I know I don't. I'd also like to see, I thought it'd be if we could put it on the ballot in November to get the true opinion of people, which we can. I found out we can. But I still think we have no reason not to depend on the DEC and the health department and see what they come up with before this board makes any decision anyway. That's my.
Well, the reason I'm for it is I'm hoping it'll reduce some of the acrimony. That's very evident at all our meetings. And, you know, that we can get some good input from people on both sides of the issue regarding our comp plan. So hopefully it'll work out.
Council, I'm signing the agreement to spend highway money, so Scott, if you have anything you would like to weigh in on this?
Only that I agree with the rest of the board, and I think a balanced advisory committee is a good idea. And maybe they can provide some input and their opinions in helping us to put forth the best plan we can.
Okay, so with that, on that note, is there anything else from the board that they would like to?
Should we have a motion for that, Tom?
I think to the point of the committee in April. I want to see who, if you have anyone sign up.
You don't just, we
No,
just
yeah,
wait
we're just-
until we.
We'll just have the sign-up sheet will be available, town clerks, tomorrow, or next day, you all right? Tomorrow?
I'll try for tomorrow.
Okay, we'll try for tomorrow. If not, it'll be there as soon as possible for a sign-up, and we can start from there. So hopefully go in with positive thoughts. It's always very easy to be negative on everything, but let's go in with positive thoughts and get this done the right way. So if the board has anything else, I know we have nobody here from Youngsville Water District, but we're working on a break in the line. That's not the main supply line, it's the old one actually, but I'll talk to Jim in the morning.
I just want to clear up one rumor that's out there, and this is about me, okay? I have no desire to open up a transient type campground or whatever you want to call it. I have no desire. Have I ever had a desire? No. With this issue, so I am not planning, or do I, in the future, will I do this? No. Okay, so I want to clear that air right now so everyone knows that. There's a rumor going around, and I'm going to end it right here. I have no desire. I have land, yes, but I'm not going to create a man camp, as you people call it. It's a transient. Well, you'd have to go through that anyway. Would be it's like close to a miracle to get one in this town. So
Okay?
no desire. Okay, thank you.
You think it would be a good time to talk about that zoning?
Howard, you got the...
Well, I think that most people are not aware of the zoning we have regarding transient, which could be called a man camp, transient facilities for RVs. And our zoning says you need a 20-acre site minimum, needs planning board approval. There has to be an approved by New York State Department of Health septic, and there has to be well, there's setbacks defined in there. The minimum site, I believe, is
7,500.
7,500 square feet per.
Unit.
So, you know, we already have, it doesn't mean it couldn't be tightened up, but we have rules in effect that do not make this easy. Somebody just can't say, oh, you know, park on my land. It can't happen. So I just think that that's in our zoning, and I don't think most people are aware of that. So if that allays some fears, good.
We have, to add to that, as long as we're at it, we have requested from our planner, Nan Stolzenberg, some additional information on zoning. What I requested of her was if she knew of a town that had not banned drilling, but had looked at zoning very closely, so she did forward us some information. It's in the hands of our planning board, just simply reviewing. There would be nothing done with that, of course, without our board approval, but just, you people need to know. And this is what these several meetings that we have had, I have had with some of our residents, have tried to clear up. Most people, and I've said this from the beginning, most people really don't know what a comprehensive plan is. And a lot of people haven't looked at it yet. A lot have, but a lot still don't. They don't know the difference between the comprehensive plan and your zoning. This is what we need to make known. This is what we want to make known. We have a code enforcement officer as well as a deputy code enforcement are well-versed in our zoning. They also would make themselves available. You can speak to Kevin about that or call him. He has office hours here every day. If you have questions regarding that. I'd ask someone that I saw the other day, if you'd please point out in our comprehensive plan where man camp was. Well, he couldn't do it because it's not in there. There's no place man camp is listed in our comprehensive plan. It alludes to the transient housing, as Councilman Kubler has stated. But this is what we want, people. We want you to be aware. We want you to know because that's what you need to know. And you have to know, just like that commercial for State Farm or whatever it is, everything that's on the internet isn't absolutely true, even though they tell you it is. But what's in our zoning is true, and that is law, and that has to be abided by. So, unless the councilmen have anything else right now, we're gonna open this up, and we're not gonna get too far into it, but we're gonna allow some comments and some questions tonight. And again, hopefully, here's the invite again, please. Call me, call our board members, try and set up an appointment where it's convenient for the two of you to do that. So the offer's been here, and again, I thank the ones that did take the time to come and do that, so. Okay? We're good?
Good.
It's your turn. Yes, sir.
Just
question about the report by Cooper and Neiman. Is that going to be online, or how does that,
No.
how do people?
There's one here available if you would like to see it.
We can't take it away?
I don't think you want to unless you want to pay for a copy. But it's here, in all seriousness, okay? Okay. Way in the back, I had her first, yes.
Have you established your criteria for deciding who will be on this committee? I mean, have you sort of set a criteria about, you know, how you want it to be structured, or who, you know, how you would choose?
Other than town residents, and we'd like to take an equal, you know, I hate to say this, but we know we have both sides of the issue. As much as we don't want this review panel to be about gas drilling, other towns and counties have tried that, and it hasn't worked. Because we know that it's a very emotional topic, and quite truthfully, it hasn't worked anywhere that has been tried to get any common ground on that subject. But what we'd like to do right now, again, because New York State, really, we could be in a holding pattern here for a long time. Nobody knows that for sure. We hope they get it right. That's what Governor Cuomo says. It's gonna take as long as it needs to. We gotta get it right. But our big issue has been about this comprehensive plan. So we want people to learn about the comprehensive plan, and we want them to learn about what's in our zoning. And so at this time, to answer your question, I think the only requirement right now is a town resident. Okay, you have one, sir.
I have a question for Charlie. You said you thought it was possible to put this on the ballot in a referendum form?
Yeah, I found out from the Association of Towns that it can't be done.
On a town level, because I know there's no statewide mechanism for a referendum, but a town could do it.
I asked Marvin, he said it can't be done also.
Cannot be done.
Cannot be done.
Cannot be done.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
Next, please.
Tom, could you clarify a little bit the charge that this committee is going to have?
As stated with the county review, the 239 review, and you're welcome to that if you haven't read that. That's public knowledge, and many people have seen that. They're suggesting that we remove language about plan. You heard my response to it. I don't feel that would be responsible to do that, but that's what we want this review panel to do. Look at this, have a discussion. If they think it's in the best interest of the comprehensive plan in this town to remove it, or leave it the way it is, modify it one way or another. So I think the charge would be just that.
Am I correct that the tone and substance of that comprehensive plan should be unbiased on the issue? That the position of the board is just that you have not taken a side, that you are nonpartisan on the issue, that indeed the report is designed to talk about what ifs and not what wills?
In my opinion, exactly right. And I believe this committee that worked on this comp plan update for over 3 years did just that. Again, in my response, this is an activity that is polarized. If I could do anything to change what natural gas drilling has done to this town, I would do it.
Sure.
And I think any other town leader would say the same. So I think the committee did a fair job in doing that. As I spoke about Rockland's plan, they did the same thing. They mentioned there could be strengths, there could be weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So, but for the board to look at this and be on that very fine line, that double-edged sword, if you will, of which way you like on this, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, but this board has been that way, where we're waiting. We're waiting for New York State, we're waiting for DEC, but in the meantime, our comprehensive plan lies there, and you know, it's lied there since 1980, quite truthfully. But if we were, as I told the county, that if we were to remove language from the present updated plan about natural gas drilling, we might as well have just stamped the 1980 plan and call it the updated one, because there's little change. So I think that's what the committee has done, and I think this review panel will study that issue and decide ultimately, or they won't decide, they will put it to this board if we should remove, leave it, change it. Yes.
Tom, to add to this gentleman's question, this committee you're planning sounds that it should as well be composed of people who do not have a bias, either for or against gas drilling.
We can define that.
That's what I was kind of big.
Well, you hope you get, I would think you'd want them all there.
Yeah.
If we can.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just afraid that if you do that, you may end up with the same result you've gotten here. It's very contentious, and people, regardless of how something is worded or how they interpret it, their feelings are that it's not a good thing. I mean, I haven't read the whole plan myself. I don't know whether the town board is really supporting the notion of gas drilling, or if they're just stating that the possibility of drilling is in the future. But I mean, I don't understand that to mean that anybody on the board is in particular saying, yeah, I think we should have drilling. I mean, I'd be the first person to stand up and say I'd be happy to be on this committee, but if you're just talking about how the comprehensive plan is worded, the comprehensive plan obviously should not be indicative of any bias for or against drilling, but just stating that it exists and the town will be forced to take a position on it at some point, because the reality is it's going on. It's a real issue. It's reached New York State. From what I understand and vaguely understand, it started somewhere in the Southwest, I don't know, dozens of years ago. So, I mean, it's here and we have to deal with it. But having a planning committee that is going to really fight it out is, to me, almost duplicating what you had in here. Again, I'd be happy to serve on the committee, but I just know that I will be totally unbiased.
I'll make sure you check the list and put your
Yeah.
name on it, and we'll see what.
No doubt.
how many volunteers we get. Okay.
No doubt.
I know you want to have another comment too. We'll get that towards the end. Don't let me forget
Yeah,
regarding the memorial. Okay.
Yeah.
On this subject, I noticed your letter replying to the county addressed half of what the county did. The county suggested removing the language from the comp plan. They did not suggest that the town ignore the subject. In fact, they suggest the town come up with another plan comparable to the ag plan on extractive heavy industry. That this is rather than dismissing this as an important topic, they said it's such an important topic that we should get a measure of the sentiment in the town and write a separate plan up for this, just as the town has done with ag. So presumably that model is something this committee might consider. And also, I know that, also unmentioned in your response, the county noted that the town had not done a good job of assaying public opinion on this issue. And picking up on Charlie's remark, presumably this committee might also recommend to the town that they do another community survey that does a better job of soliciting sentiment on this. That would be also something this committee might consider.
Anyone else?
I'd like to address that. I served on that comprehensive plan with Nan Flickenberg. I was at every meeting. I was representing the farmers. And gas drilling come up numerous times. And every time Jill or Louis Aragon would say, we don't want to go there. Leave that alone. Stay with the agricultural part or the rest of the... And every time they said that, and it was dropped. Why they've come up with this here, I have no idea.
I wish we knew I wish we could find out the true number of people for or against it. Ryan brought that up a long time ago. Whether it's one in favor of the majority or one against it, so be it. That would be, but to find that number, is the hard part.
Yeah, I have a question about what Howard was talking about with the zoning. And I can appreciate that there are strict zonings when it comes to transient places, worker housing or whatever it would be, man camps or places with airstreams on them, I don't know. But the comp plan is really the backbone for zoning. So if you pass a comp plan that has a nod to transient worker housing, wouldn't it allow you to change the zoning to make it easier?
I don't believe that.
No. Comp plan is not a zoning law, it's a policy statement. Your zoning law applies unless you change your zoning stands.
Right, but and I'll just ask again, isn't the comp plan the thing that dictates what zoning could be? So if you have a comp plan that says there is no transient housing.
Plan can't dictate anything.
I'm sorry?
Plan can't dictate anything, it's not law.
In 2 instances, it recommends
Hold on one
changing
second, we
zoning.
have one commenter in the back, please. And
That's my
let her
feeling about a
finish.
comp plan, that it can't dictate anything.
But it does
Maybe-
make,
No, you're right. Yeah, I mean, that's my interpretation of it.
but this comp plan as written does,
Establish policy.
yeah, well, it does establish policy because it does reference zoning and changing zoning.
Zoning can change, it starts in the planning board generally, and they make recommendations. They hash it out, have a public hearing. If they agree that it should be changed, then it has to come here, we hash it out, have a public hearing.
But it recommends changing zoning for transient housing for industrial workers, and it recommends changing zoning for high-impact industrial activity. It is in the plan in black and white, in 2 instances.
I think everyone should review that
But
statement,
it
what he
could
just
be
said
to
right
make
there.
it tighter.
Exactly, if you, it's how you interpret that
So
particular
it
part
doesn't
of
say to
it.
make it less strict.
I think it's been misinterpreted.
Okay, I just wanna say, this comprehensive plan,
Well,
it's
that's
not a
something
law.
that this panel could direct if it's been misinterpreted.
It could be
This
clarified.
is not a law. This is not a law, it's an aspirational
That's right.
document. It's only an aspirational document. In other words, you could agree with some of those things in there if you should change planning, or you don't. You don't agree with them. It's as simple as that. It's not just because it says something in there, it does not mean that you drive right
Excuse
into
me,
that
we have
and
people up here speaking.
change your zoning. If there is things that need to be changed, maybe there is. We're learning. We're learning just like everyone else here about this gas drilling. And believe me, we are doing our study. So,
Yes, ma'am.
Nancy Lee from Callicoon
Thank
Center.
you for that.
I don't know a whole lot, but having attended New York State Institute for Planners, I was on the planning board for 4 years. The comprehensive plan is not a law, but it does set the tone. It is a blueprint for where the town wants to go. And the zoning board, the planning board does look to the comprehensive plan for its guide on what to adopt. So for whatever that's worth, I wanted to state that. The other comments I had has to do with the fact that the comprehensive plan, as we talk about it tonight, was not on the agenda. And I know that this is something that the town board has considered because you wrote the letter. So I'm just saying, in terms of being a town resident, I would like there to be more communication. And I know that it's important for you to meet with the residents, as you have done with 4 of the people, but I, as a resident, want to hear those conversations. And I'm not privy to them because maybe they happened at a post office. So if at all possible, I'd like to hear what other people have to say. Maybe I couldn't make it to find you in the post office or wherever. So I just want to bring that up. And in terms of the review board, I think I'm with Howard that I don't know, but I think you need to make a resolution to appoint this. It's a minor thing, but I just thought I'd voice that. Thank you.
Thank you. I see somebody in the back? No? Dennis, I know we have about the memorial, or is that what you wanted?
Yeah, but I would say that in recognition of what this lady is saying, obviously the planning committee should have a defined objective. And if that objective is to review the town's comprehensive plan for presence of bias for one issue or another. That's what the committee is hoping to do. You know, they're hoping to clear the air about the plan, not about drilling or anything else, but that the plan is being presented to the town and the citizens in a manner such that there are no misunderstandings about what positions the town may or may not have. I see the comprehensive plan as something that is a general provision of information regarding the progressive nature of the town's plans and the projection as far as where it's going. And yes, I would like to make a comment. Once again, my name is Dennis Finley. I'm from Callicoon Center. And I've been working on a Veterans Memorial for the town of Callicoon. And at this time, I'd like to state that I've had a number of meetings, one very much in depth with the architect who is voluntarily providing his time to put some drawings together for this memorial. And I'd like to state that he is very dedicated and very concerned about what people are going to think of as they walk through this memorial. So as a result of that, it's not something he's just going to take out a piece of graph paper on and, you know, draw a couple of squares. He really cares about the impact of this memorial on people. But then again, that means it needs a lot more time than I ever could have conceived that it does. And his point is this memorial is going to be here a long time. So we should be thinking about the longevity of it and not the immediacy of it. So after actually walking through the proposed site and everything, we decided, and certainly with great input from him, that we want to change the location of the memorial to the other end of this area adjacent to the athletic field. And we understand there are some property issues. So I just want everybody in the town to understand it's not something that I'm not acting on. It's something that I'm realizing has to get done right the first time. And so I'm asking for the patience of everybody in the town who's concerned about when the actual work is going to get underway. We're not that far away. But Tom, I know you had graciously offered me some time this past week, and we went over some of the more specific details, and I know you're going to be working on some of the concerns that I can't address myself, but that you and the board can. So my pledge to the citizens of the town of Callicoon is that this memorial will be something that the community will be very proud of. It will be really very positively reflect on the recognition of the citizens of the town of Callicoon, of its veterans, and especially those who lost their lives in defense of this country's ideals and principles. So thank you for your time, everybody.
Hey, Dennis, and
Thank you,
again,
Dennis.
Thank you. I know you have put a lot of time in already. We've already, we're going to approach the neighboring landowner, as I told you, see if there's any possibility there. Just as long as we've got it up, because Scott and Charlie have been involved with the youth program and rec board. The concession stand that's there on the one side of the parking lot, because that would be the side that we're looking at now for the site of this memorial. And I said, I'm quite certain that would be something that we could move maybe over near where the information, you know, make something.
It's movable.
Yeah. Right, so I'm sure that's, you know, easily done, and, you know, we'll work on that other issue.
Great.
Okay?
Okay,
All right.
thanks, Tom.
Dennis, thank you. Anybody in the board want to ask Dennis anything? Okay, all right. Yes, sir, Mr. Morrow.
As someone who ate up 2 1/4 of those said 4 or 5 hours, for which I thank you, and it was great, it was great, loved it, it was excellent, it was good. Got a few questions answered, liked it a lot, thank you. Now, but when I was here tonight, and again, heard the welcome of comments and all that, I would really love to go that one more step and talk about the more of an open, moderated, so that there's no free-for-all dialogue, so that when I hear, while I'm here out of one ear, why some of those people in the room are idiots, and then I might hear in another part of the room why other people in the other part of the room are idiots. And because everyone has something valid to say, and people are on their sides of the issue, we know that, so I would sort of, throwing in that I would love to see we go a step further with welcoming a moderated, open meeting where people are respectful and don't talk over each other, and they get an allotted amount of time and an order of speaking and discuss. That's to you, and also to everyone, I guess. Am I allowed to address the room, or am I addressing the board?
You're addressing the board.
I will reiterate to the board my personal feeling then that I don't think that there's any group who does not want to see farmers or landowners or people who have not been able to make a big living anymore not succeed in that. But I do believe we have to examine, this seems like it's a damaging, it'll come in and whether things are temporary or not, it's all gonna happen, and then we're left with a place like we never had it and a bit of a mess. I would like to, in the discussion I have dreamt of, welcome the subject of alternative energies and things that produce streams of money that go on and on and on, and don't potentially touch the water supply. So I say that to the board as best I can.
Thank you, Mr. Marlin, for your comments. And
Can I ask you a question?
yes,
Are you for drilling or not?
excuse me, no, the questions are directed to the board. We had another one back there, but
No, we can't.
Hi, Tom Persner. I'm here with two hats tonight. First off, I'd like to thank you guys for supporting the fire service in Sullivan County with the vote of confidence for our new tower system and everything. I know it was a lot of money, but the board out there in the county voted unanimously 9-0 to support us, realizing that no matter how the money's got to come from, we needed proof of pudding. January, Jeff, we had 9 calls, 2 times our siren didn't work. Putting on my other hat now. I want to say, as a citizen of the town of Callicoon, I think the board's doing a tremendous job here. I don't get to all the meetings, because my fire meetings are the same night, so I try to get here when I can. And I like the way that you're sitting in the middle of the fence on this gas, and I'm not against the gas, and seeing how everything plays out, just like right now the state of Illinois is doing. Everybody, the pros and cons all come together, maybe that can happen here. And I got one question for you. Is this board supporting the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States? Are they on record of this?
we are.
We are.
We unanimously passed a resolution in support of Second Amendment at last month's meeting in our opposition to the Governor's SAFE Act.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Anything else in the Senate? Yes, sir.
Richard Kresner, Callicoon Center. I'm going to start with the last sentence first. I got a little thing here. We must find a way to get out of the crisis that we are getting ourselves into. The claim that fracking is or can be safe should be backed up with protection for the whole community. A simple solution would be to have money set aside in the fund, which would be drawn on in case someone's property is damaged. This is similar to the practice of getting security for a house rental or having, pardon me, or having auto insurance to pay for an accident victim. It should be understood that the gas oil companies package many leases together and sell them around the world. This makes it very expensive and difficult to get compensation for damages. The claim that fracking is safe must be backed up with money. This is something that local government can do, and it would be fair to everyone. The oil gas companies must contribute to a fund to protect the community. This would go a long way towards healing the hostility between those who want a gas well on their property and the neighbors who are concerned what that will do to their property.
Good job.
I believe the only thing we can do that with is roads, I believe, at this point. Is that right?
Yeah, let's
State laws. Yeah, okay, I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay.
Say that again, sir?
I believe it's only our roads right now that we can actually, we have a road use agreement in
Yeah.
effect right now, we can.
Well, let's
We
be,
can call
let's be
monies.
clear, this town board never was on record saying fracking was safe, so that's just so I want that.
The claim that,
We all are
I'm
entitled
not,
to-
I'm not saying that you are, I said the claim that fracking is or can be safe.
Okay,
This is, like generic and, so.
okay, appreciate that. And again, I'd just like to reiterate this thought. I don't feel this time is wasted, but there's a lot of time being spent on something that is not even a possibility here. We've all supported the fact that we would like to see a health study that's going to be conducted, completed, before New York State makes a decision on this. That we hope for. We've supported Senator Bonasik's legislation trying to strengthen home rule. We've done that. We supported Congressman Hinchy's FRAC Act, which would make disclosure of any chemicals used. We'd like to see what Halliburton, God forbid that word, but that's who has come out with a non-toxic fracking formula to be used. I see somebody shaking their head, but that's okay. These are things that this board has done, okay? But what right now, which could be something 2 years in the making of a health study analysis or completion of this, there's a lot of things that go on in the town. One of is not gas drilling. So I know everybody has concerns. We as a board have concerns. I would just like to ask at this time, can we get on with running the business of the town and not expend so much time and energy on a process that we don't know will ever be allowed in New York State? And to further that, I had this conversation with Mr. Hilton and I think Mr. Finley. If anybody would really consider our proximity to the Millennium Pipeline, you know where it is, correct? Anybody doesn't know where the Millennium Pipeline? Okay, it doesn't run through the town of Callicoon. There's a town of Fremont and a town of Delaware that have both passed resolutions supporting fracking. Anybody doesn't know that? They've done that. In my opinion, and I think it's our board's opinion, that if New York State, whenever these health studies are finished, Governor Cuomo's not gonna make a decision on this. The health department's going to, the DEC is going to. When that happens, whether it's a year from now, these again, my opinion, I'm entitled to that. When that comes down, if they make a decision to allow permitting for natural gas, it is my opinion that it will not be in the town of Callicoon. It probably will not be in Sullivan County. It probably will be in Tioga, Chemung, Broome, Delaware, all counties to our north and west that have some of them that are further west in the Susquehanna River Basin that allows it. Okay, so these are all things that we can say we have the luxury that it's not going to happen here first. We can wait and see. If it happens in Chemung, Tioga, Broome, monitor that. If it happens in the town of Fremont, which I don't believe will happen until after the other counties. Again, my opinion, and the board weigh in on this, please. These are all things that work to our advantage here of being able to remain neutral and see what happens. We have time. We have time. And I think every other issue that's come before this board for as long as I've been on it, back to the junkyard law, back to the dog and cat law, to the outdoor wood burning furnace, to the logging permit, to the road use agreement. We have not rushed into any one of these. We have done due diligence in deciding what is good or not good for this town. So I think at this time, I would just like to ask to consider that. Don't consume these meetings. We welcome your comment, but to consume our meetings and everyone's time with something that's not even a possibility here, please take that into consideration. We have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, everyone.